Hello, everyone. This is Stacy. Welcome to the landing.
If you have ever had a bowl of clam chowder that warmed your soul, or heard the sizzle of soft-shell crabs hitting the pan, then you know Downey's cooking isn't just about feeding folks. It's about remembering where we come from, who raised us, and what we pass on. Joining us today is someone who knows that heart and heritage better than most. Casey Best, a lifelong friend whose hands have stirred many a pot and whose stories are seasoned with love and memory. So pull up a chair as we reflect with this straight-raised young man and dig into the flavors and stories that make our Downey's tables so very special. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the landing. I am so glad to have you with us and very excited about our guest. I have loved this fella all his life, and I am excited to be able to spend a few minutes with him. Before I go any further, I want him to introduce himself. So, if you will, tell us your name, who's your crowd, and where you're from.
Yes, so I'm Casey Best. My crowd or my people, we are the best on the island. We had Billy's forever and a day. My mom was Miss Sue for everybody over at Harkers Island Elementary School. My sister, most of y'all know her as Ashley Surface. For those of you who may remember, I was with Downey's and still am with Downey's Softball League on their board for the past several years. So that's who I am. And
Yay. Um,
I,
I love you, Casey. I'm so tickled to be able to talk to you and catch up a little bit.
I love you too, honey.
Okay, so I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about. And this month, we're going to be focusing a little on Downey's food and recipes and traditions. So, if it's okay with you, we're going to jump right in.
Absolutely. Go ahead
Uh,
anytime.
okay. Well, do you have a place you want to start, or do you want to just me ask you a few questions and we'll see where it goes? How do you want to do it?
Whichever works for you, I can go ahead and jump into, what mealtime was like growing up with a household of six if you want, or if
Yeah.
you want to go ahead and
Nope. Let's
start with
do
some
that.
questions.
Let's
Okay.
do that. So, because you had a big family. Let's start there. When you grew up, what was mealtime like at your house? What did it look like?
Yeah, so like I said, starting off, their mom originally started with all the cooking. So, she'd come home from work, we'd come pile into the car, come home from school, and she would have everything. She'd start everything and she'd fix everything for us. And we'd all, pile around the table and eat dinner. Um, Dad would come home from the grocery store and we'd all sit around and we'd eat.
Hmm.
And I remember there'd be several times that he'd get up, he'd rub his belly, and say there was like four boys and two girls, and he'd look at us boys and he'd say, boys, when y'all grow up and get married, marry you a woman who can cook like your mom. And then mom would look at us and she'd go, and boys, that woman, she's going to want to know that y'all can cook just as good as she can for when she's sick, so she knows she's taken care of.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
so
Yep.
yeah, so yeah, as we got older, she started teaching us how to cook.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember the first thing she taught me how to cook was potato soup.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, that
Uh
was the very first meal she taught me how to cook. I think I was like maybe 10,
huh.
10 or 11. Um, and she taught us, she would teach me how to boil, cut the potatoes, boil them down, then mash it up, add the milk, add the salt and peppers, the spices and stuff.
Hmm.
And then as we got older, she would elaborate to, spaghetti, meatballs, lasagna. And even if you remember her quintessential barbecue that was the biggest hit at the church
Oh my
dinner
goodness.
spreads.
Yes. Yes, you'd
Um,
race there to get it before anybody else, so it's gone.
right, right.
Uh-huh.
But it was always that potato soup that
Mhm.
many times as a kid I'd come back, as a single adult or early married life. That would be the comfort food I'd go to.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Oh, now I know at our house, we, like you said, we sat around the table. I mean, we ate together and had mealtime. That tradition I think is lost now for a lot of households, and that saddens me.
yeah, it's like even now the last one at my house is my 18-year-old Messiah. And you know I live in Atlanta now, and our apartment is too small for a table. And
Mhm.
so we sit and stand around the kitchen counter and
Mhm.
eat.
Mhm.
We don't eat around a table anymore, and we don't sit together often
Mhm.
anymore. It's more of a eat when you can and disappear.
Yeah, that I'm ashamed to say that that's how it got with us when before my kids moved out too. We would all grab a plate and just go sit wherever. But that was a special time, was that family time. Um,
Hmm.
can you think of any special traditions that included food in your family? Like any times where food was a big central part?
So, as you know, Saturday dinner at Mammy's house
Oh yeah,
was
yes. Tell
was a big
everybody.
thing.
Yes, I remember going because we didn't live far from your mammy, and so I remember seeing the cars and the people at your mammy's house on Saturdays. Please tell us.
Yes. So Saturday was a huge tradition at Mammy. So of course, growing up, Granddaddy owned the grocery store on the island.
Mm-hmm.
And Mammy, she had her extended family and the store crowd and our crowd, and there was always food at Mammy's house
Mm-hmm.
from around like 10 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And there was always people flowing in and out at Mammy's house. Kind of I remember as a teenager, Uncle Rocky made a comment, Mama, do you know how many's been here today? She goes, No, all I know is I still have food. Uh, there was plates were always made, and it's like, well, who's that going to? Oh, well, that's going to Milo. Or who's that going to? Well, that's going to Will. And who's that one? Well, that one's just going home.
Uh-huh.
But there
Uh-huh.
was always food,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
Mammy would start cooking like on Friday.
and she
Um,
loved it. I mean, she loved doing it.
she did.
Mm-hmm.
She did. Mom and I were talking just yesterday about, when did Mammy stop cooking? And we figures probably like she was in her mid 70s when she herself stopped cooking, but
Wow.
the family kept up the
Mm-hmm.
Saturday tradition, and we started bringing food to her
Mm-hmm.
house so that the Saturday still was there, so that people were still flowing in and out
Oh, I
at
love
Mammy's
it.
house.
Now, what was a food that Mammy would cook that, you just loved?
So Mammy would always have fried chicken.
Mm.
She always had her Mammy's shrimp salad.
Oh.
She always had fresh meat and rutabagas.
Mm.
And she always had the big lima beans.
Oh, love it.
Those were always staples at Mammy's house for Saturday.
Mhm.
That
Oh,
was always there.
love that. Oh my goodness. What was your all-time favorite recipe that I know you mentioned the potato soup, but is that it or is there something else that as you grew older or now like what's your all-time favorite thing to cook?
So believe it or not, it's meatloaf.
Really?
And yes, and I laugh at this because it took me forever to get it down.
Mm.
And the reason for this is Mama made meatloaf and it was so good. It
Mhm.
was juicy, and it was one of those meatloafs that the second day was even better as a sandwich.
Oh, yes.
Um,
So
And
it didn't
so,
dry out. It wasn't.
right,
Mhm.
right. And you could take it out of the refrigerator cold and eat
Mhm.
it, and it was still good. So then when I moved out on my own and I started cooking, I would try everything possible to recreate Mama's meatloaf. And sometimes I'd get close, but I could never get that sauce just right, and I
Mhm.
tried and I tried and I tried. And one time, I was working in Connecticut and I came home visiting and she had her meatloaf. And I was like, Mama, I have to ask you, I have tried for years trying to recreate your meatloaf and I can't get this sauce down. What is your secret to this sauce? And she started laughing and she says, Casey, it's Hunt's ketchup straight out the bottle.
No way.
And I was like, what? I was like, I have tried over and over, and you're telling me it's just ketchup? She says, yeah. Just pour the ketchup right before you put the meatloaf in the oven and just let it do its thing. I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. That's good to know. That's
Yes.
good to know. Oh, that's
And
so
that
funny. So
and so that was our secret ingredient.
that's the secret ingredient. See, it never hurts to ask.
Right.
Let's see. As if you could eat only one meal for the rest of your life, what would that meal be?
That one's a no-brainer. Fresh meat and rutabagas.
Oh my goodness. That's a good
You know,
pick. hmm
there's just something about it. The way the meat just falls off the bone,
hmm
the way as it cooks, the rutabagas just sweeten everything. There's nothing like it. Now, of course, with age, we all start having medications. And so I can no longer have pork,
hmm
but I have learned that if you throw in two chicken thighs, three chicken breast, a little bit of olive oil, um, it just cooks just right to where it's almost perfect, and I
Oh,
can deal with
oh, good to know.
it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So if folks that know you know this about you, but you love to cook and you love to play around with recipes and try new things. So I'm guessing that do you prefer to cook or do you prefer to be cooked for?
I love cooking for others,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and I love cooking with others,
Okay.
um, because there's something about coming together in a kitchen, um, to discuss things, to talk about stuff, to share a meal together that you have created
Mm-hmm.
that just brings you together. And then to not only share what you've created, but to share with others.
Yes.
Um, that is just something that it's I don't know how to I don't right now I don't have the words to describe it, but it is just um it's perfect.
Yes. Yeah. It is. It's a very bonding experience. And
Right.
I agree. I mean, I think the times when Daryl and I take time to meet with our friends and we cook together and eat together, it's wonderful. I love that too.
Yep.
Um, do you have any unforgettable food memories from your childhood, something that maybe you were forced to eat? I know that sometimes Mama would say, "You're not getting up from the table until you try it," or things like that. Do you have any of those?
To this day, seven bean salad is the bane of my existence.
Oh my goodness. I never
Oh,
liked that either.
I don't know what it was about the 80s, but that seven bean salad was like on everybody's plate at one point in time.
Yes.
And I remember mom this one Sunday, she had it, and we had mashed potatoes as well.
Mhm.
And I was the last one at the table that Sunday. And she was like, "You're going to eat this." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." She's like, "Yes, you are." And I remember her saying, "There are starving children in China," the phrase that
Yes. Oh,
everyone used
yes.
back then.
Oh, yes.
I was like, "No, I'm not." And she went into the kitchen, and I took my mashed potatoes and I covered my seven bean salad. And I finally said, "It's gone, Mom." And she looked at me, and I know she knows that I didn't eat it, but she let me finally leave the table because it had been like an hour after everybody else had left.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that is so funny, and I can totally see you hiding it too. Oh,
Oh,
that's so funny. Well, I know with food too, the smells are, and that's a big part of it. So,
mhm.
are there any smells? Because now, especially with you not living back home, that immediately when you smell those things, it takes you back to a specific moment or home.
Yes. So, as I've said, I live here in Atlanta. Um, and I was out with some coworkers the other day. We went to this food mall, and there was something going on with one of the food vendors. They were frying something, and just the way their fryer hit, all of a sudden, I was back at Seaside, and I was about to sit down to a plate of fried shrimp.
Ooh,
Oh my word. I was like in heaven, and I was like, who's doing what? And I had to go find out what it was they were frying
I bet it
that
wasn't
smelled
shrimp.
like it was not shrimp. By no means was it shrimp. Um, I think it may have been like fried asparagus or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and why asparagus smelled like shrimp, I don't know. But it smelled just like Clara Willis sitting in the backside of Seaside
Oh my
frying
goodness.
out a bunch of shrimp.
Oh my goodness. That smelled good then. Mm-mm.
It took me back some time, let me tell you.
Isn't it amazing how that sense of smell can do that?
It
Oh.
it does. It does. I mean, just I walked into someone's house the other day. We were having a bunch of us were getting together, um, and they were making Italian food,
Hmm.
but the garlic and onions that they were using, and all of a sudden I was smelling baked flounder.
Oh, now
And I
that's
was
one of
like,
my favorites. Oh.
I was just like, man. And
Hmm.
this is why I was all of a sudden I was like, I can't wait till I get home for spring break.
You're
I've
right.
got to get me some seafood.
Get you some seafood. And that goes right into my next question for you. Are the foods that are unique to Down East, to our home? What's something that, like, when you meet people now, especially that they've never tried, and you're like, oh, I wish you could try such and such. What is something from our area that you wish people could try?
So actually, as like my 27-year-old used to say when he was seven, um, so a few weeks ago, um, the young men in my ward, they were doing an activity, and they asked me because they knew that I like to cook.
Mhm.
They asked me to do a cooking demonstration for them.
Oh.
Now, my freezer has about 60 pounds of fresh shrimp in it
Mm.
from back sound.
Mm.
Um, so I thawed out some shrimp, and I took some cabbage, and I taught them how to cook fried shrimp and how to boil shrimp and how to make homemade coleslaw, like
Oh.
we make coleslaw.
Oh. Which is what do we include?
Okay. So obviously, we shred and chop I make it hamburger style for my
Mm-hmm.
shrimps.
Mm-hmm.
So we shred and chop and dice really fine the coleslaw. We add a little bit of mayonnaise. You got to make it sweet, so just a touch of sugar.
Oh, yes.
Now, I don't like, and don't beat me down, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like pickles in
Mm-hmm.
my coleslaw,
Yeah, I don't either.
but I do like dill. So I
Mm-hmm.
use dill weed,
Mm-hmm.
and I use pickle juice
Mm-hmm. Oh,
in my coleslaw.
I bet that's good.
Oh, it is so good because it gives me that dill flavor that I want from the pickles,
Yep. Yep.
but it doesn't give me the pickle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like a little bit of carrot in mine, so I take and
Mm-hmm.
I shred carrot into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do celery seed, salt, and pepper.
Sounds
And
good to
that's
me.
pretty much it.
Sounds good. And then the shrimp, of course, you show them how to clean them?
showed them how to clean them, showed them how to get the vein out.
Yes.
And I told them, and they're like, "Well, don't you leave the tails on?" I was like, "If you want to leave the tails on, that's fine, but you do not do it in my presence."
No. Get
And
get it. Yep.
they're like, "Okay, thank you."
Yep. Get rid of it.
um, and so one of the things that they were kind of shocked about is that Mammy always taught me shrimp is cooked 2 minutes or 20 minutes. You cook it 2 minutes till it gets to the sea if you're frying it,
Mhm.
or you cook it 20 minutes if you're stewing it, so it goes past the tough and back to tender.
Okay.
And so I was telling him, look, we're going to be boiling and frying, so you got to do it for 2 minutes. And one of the leaders pulls out his iPhone and he sets a timer. He's like, "No, I'm going to watch you now." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because I'm going to make certain you got that for 2 minutes." So I was like, "Okay."
Uh-huh.
So we had the water boiling, and I threw it in. I was like, "Okay, now watch this. It's going to turn pink, and we're going to grab it out." And sure enough, at like a minute and 32 seconds, it turned pink. And I was like, "All right, it's going to be just a second, few longer." And I pulled it up, and he's like, "Oh my, it does make a C." He's like, "So you want to throw it in cold water?" I was like, "No, you don't throw it in cold water. That's what the chefs on TV do, and they're screwing it up." He says, "Well, what you going to do?" I said, "You just put it there on the paper towel." I was like, "It will continue cooking. It'll be the best shrimp you've ever had."
Yep.
And so they did it. They cooked it. They ate, and it was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like lobster." I was like, "Exactly. That's the way it's supposed to taste."
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. Uh-huh. And then the fried shrimp, I'm sure, turned out great too.
Fried shrimp counter rape. And then I taught them how to make cocktail sauce with ketchup, horseradish, and lemon juice, and a little bit of Worcestershire. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "This doesn't taste anything like the restaurants."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Because this is how it's supposed to be."
I know. Oh my goodness. Ah, that's so funny. Well, I'm glad that you taught them the right way to do it.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's not hard, y'all. It's not hard.
It's not. And so some of the leaders, even now, they'll come back. It's like, "We had shrimp your way this weekend. It was so good."
Uh-huh. You have changed their lives.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. Have traditions, food traditions. Have you adopted any or introduced some new traditions in your own family through the years?
Yes. So my wife, we don't hold it against her, is from the West Coast. So,
Mhm.
so we have brought a lot of her traditions over to us. Her
Mhm.
family it has a German background.
Mhm.
So they make German potato salad instead of our potato salad. And, don't hold it against me, but I kind of like the German potato salad better than ours.
Mhm.
I still eat our potato salad and I really like it, but, we do a lot of that.
Now, what's the main
Um,
difference? Is it the mustard or what's the main difference in the
a lot of it is the mustard. The German potato salad that her family makes is sliced potatoes instead of diced potatoes.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Um, and so, a little, those kind of little nuances into
Mhm.
it.
Okay.
Um, and it's got hers, they add a little bit of vinegar to it,
Oh, okay.
which gives it a little bit more tang.
Mhm.
And I really like that.
Mhm. Yeah, okay.
Um, Another thing that we do is she and I decided years ago, because she served in the Army, that we would not restrict our kids to one type of food.
Mhm.
So our children grew up eating all sorts of food. Some of my in-laws are from Korea. So they've learned to eat kimchi at a young age. They've learned to my wife's grandmother lived in San Diego, so we were down in Tijuana eating Mexican food. That was like
Mhm.
real Mexican food and not Americanized Mexican food.
Right.
Um, you know, her uncle served in Vietnam, so he taught us how to eat lumpia, things of that nature. So
Mhm.
they have a very diverse palate. And
Mhm.
that was one of the traditions that we started when the kids were young was don't ever turn your nose up to other cultures. When we lived in Greensboro, I worked with Ghanaians and Congolese and Sierra Leones, and we met with them and shared dinner with them. And my kids have eaten goat. That's
Hmm.
not like, you definitely don't get that on Harkers Island.
No.
Um, so that was some of their favorite foods,
Hmm.
is those kind of culture foods.
I love that. That's nice. I like that a lot. Okay. I know the answer to this, I think. Do you put your own spin on recipes?
I do.
Yes, that's what I
Um,
thought.
a lot of times I'll take what we do traditionally, um, and because of my health needs, I have to change it. Because I mean,
Hmm.
let's face it, we all can't eat beans with a ton of bacon grease into it anymore.
Right.
But you know, it's great being able to take the traditional foods that we grew up with and learn how to make them healthy.
Mm.
I can have a fried potato and fried bologna sandwich, just not throw all that extra bacon grease into it.
Right.
I can have collard greens made with smoked turkey instead of ham hocks.
Hmm.
I can still have all of our traditional foods just made healthier, and they're still just as good.
Still good. That's right. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you've had a chance to think about this one, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this question. Okay.
Okay.
A recipe that you hope to pass down to future generations will be cooking this recipe and think of where it came from. Do you have one?
So I do have one.
Oh, good.
Um, my mother's mother's um, cornbread recipe.
Oh,
Um,
do tell.
it's a very simple. It's a 3-2-1 recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my middle son Jared loves this recipe.
Okay, can you share
It's
it with us?
absolutely.
Okay.
It is three all-purpose flour. No, yes, three all-purpose flour, three three all-purpose flour, two cornmeals, two eggs, one one teaspoon of uh, not baking soda, but baking powder,
Baking powder. Uh-huh.
one cup sugar, and milk or water to make it the consistency of a batter.
Oh, okay.
Um, and you just mix it up and you pour it into a baking pan, and it makes the cornbread.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and a teaspoon of salt.
Teaspoon of salt. Okay.
And Jared loves making this.
Mm-hmm.
And he just loves, he'll make it and he'll serve it with honey, serve it with butter.
Oh.
Um, and then of course my other kids, they want to add, diced jalapenos to it because they love things spicy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one thing that he loves doing.
I love that. Now, have you taught your sons to cook?
Yes. Now I will have to say that they're stubborn like I am. Um, and so there are times that I want to pop them on the back of the head because they're not listening. Then I realize that, when your mother says, I hope you have 12 dozen of them just like you,
Uh-huh.
that that's what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so refrain and I step back and say, okay, let's look at this again. Uh, what are we doing? So, but that's where I love the Island Born and Bred cookbook.
My
Um,
favorite.
and then my other favorite and our family's favorite is the 1980-1984 Betty Crocker's cookbook,
Oh.
because that was made before you had canned this or canned that, so it actually
Mhm.
gives you the original recipes.
Oh, good
um,
to know.
and you can get it. This is not a sell ploy or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that, but you can find it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that when Mahanrai was first on his own, I gave that to him for Christmas one year because it's part of our family's cookbook supply or cookbook repertoire.
And so that's the
Um,
1984? Is that what you said?
it is the
84?
1980, 1984, that time frame.
Okay, okay.
Um, Cookbook. You can find them on Amazon, but like some of our family's favorite recipes out of it is a thing called hamburger corn pie.
Mm,
Oh my gosh, that is so good.
mm,
Um, that is where our family loves homemade pancakes. And
mm-hmm.
so it's got the Betty Crocker recipe for homemade pancakes
Oh, it's not out
in
of a
there.
box.
It's not out of the box. It's got homemade banana breads in
Oh,
there. It's got Texas pinto beans is
oh.
another one of our favorites in there. Just tons and tons and tons. If you were to look at the side of it, I use those dots that people use for yard sales.
Mm-hmm.
I use those dots to fold over pages
Uh-huh.
for my favorites. You would see like yellows, greens, and reds all over this cookbook. Same with my Island Born and Bred. So it
Mm-hmm.
is very well used.
Oh, I love it. I love that. Well, our time has gone way too fast. I have enjoyed talking with you, but are there any parting words? Is there any advice to give anyone who is trying to teach their kids, or any advice for folks? Anything parting words?
So my advice for somebody who's wanting to start out with a family tradition or wanting to start out cooking is just start.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things I heard once was 3 years down the road is still going to be 3 years down the road. So whether you start today or you start 3 years from today, it's still going to be 3 years.
Mm,
Just do it.
yeah. And that is so true about life, isn't it?
It is.
Ah, so true. Well, I can't say it enough how much I have enjoyed this, and I can't wait to hear it again. I just sit down and hear our conversation again. You take care. I know this is a busy time. You got a lot going on, but thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some of yourself with us.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Oh, well, you have a great week, and I'll hopefully talk to you soon.
All right, same here. You
Uh,
have a safe one.
Thank you.
Mhm. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us again to The Landing. This podcast is brought to you by the Core Sound Waterfowl Museum and Heritage Center. I am your host, Stacy Davis Basden, and today's podcast was produced by April Davidson. Tune in again next week as we continue remembering, sharing, and learning together. Until then, stay safe and be kind.